Welcome back to the Behind the Well Show. Roger Abel. I've got Elias Randall in the studio again. Got a little rain today. It's the first rain I've seen in a long time. And my daughter asked me this morning, Elias, why there's thunder. I said, well, spring has to wake up so the flowers can come.
There you go. That's a great answer.
Well, I didn't want to scare her. She's still at the age where lightning and thunder scare her. So I got to do drop off at school today because she didn't want to wait at the bus stop.
Oh, yeah. Scary day to be at the bus stop.
Do you drop your kids off, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we don't live in the school district. Our kids go to school, so you can't get a bus.
Okay, so question. Are you the family that's one of the first ones there and you're waiting in line? Or are you waiting until right before school starts?
Depends on the weather.
If you had a preference, what would you choose?
Well, if it's nice out, you take them a little bit earlier so they can go play on the playground before school starts.
They don't allow them to do that at where we go to school.
You can't use the playground before school.
They got to stay outside the front doors. I don't know, dude. Whatever.
So today with the storm was closer to the bell because you're not going to go outside and play in a thunderstorm. So,
all right, check out what I figured out. I'm better off doing the drop off the drop off opens up at 8:15. I got there at 8:26.
What time school start?
8:30.
Yeah, 8:26. Probably everyone's gone by then.
Nobody in line. I literally pulled right up. There's teachers out there, dropped her off and left. I'm like, and I used to be the guy who got there a little early so I could get moving faster. Oh no, it was so stress-free today. I hope people from where we go to school aren't watching this because I don't need everybody to catch on. But going towards the end versus being the first in line is so much.
One of my college buddies, his dad did not like sitting in the school pickup line. So him and his brothers would put their bicycles in the back of their dad's truck, and he would park like 3 blocks away from this, like far enough away where it was a fun bike ride from the school. So they would get out of their truck, ride their bikes to school, and then after school, he'd go be at the same spot, and they would ride their bikes to the dad's truck because he did not want to sit in line at the school.
I mean, I understand. It's frustrating because nobody follows the guy. I'm not going to call them rules, because you don't get in trouble if you break them. Nobody follows the guidelines.
What are the guidelines?
Well, the right lane is for drop off. If you have to park your car and take your kid in or help them get out, you're supposed to go to the parking lot area and do that and then walk them in.
And no one does it right.
They like to park there, get out of their car, then walk their kid in. Well, that holds up the entire line. And then people are driving around them, and it's just a cluster.
Why do people... Don't even get me started. Why you got to walk your kid all the way up to the building?
Well, if you do, why can't you just park in the parking lot like you're supposed to?
Drop them off a block away. Make them walk.
So this is the first time I've dropped my daughter off at school recently. And they have teachers out there now, like 8 of them. And they're making sure it's flowing through, but... Yeah, I hate doing the drop-off line, but today I loathe doing it, but I got it done. Hey, so I emailed Molly as we were getting ready for this podcast because I think this is something, people should be aware of. An article, I got an email from Hartford Funds, and I don't open up too many of the what I would call, product partner emails, but this one caught my eye, and it really was a conversation about cash yields and how fast they dissipate. And as you know, people have been thrilled with what they're earning on cash and CDs and cash equivalents, and rightfully so. I mean, inflation is under 3 and you are clipping 4.5 or 5% on a CD. I have a client who still has a CD that matures in December. They've had it for a couple of years. They're still getting 5%. They're pretty thrilled. But I let them know that rate's gone for the time being.
Yeah, don't get too used to that.
That's over.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
So first, did you read the whole article? And it's okay if you didn't, because if you did, I'm going to quiz you. I'm going to have you make a guess.
I skimmed it.
You skimmed it. Okay. Since 1973.
I can just look at the chart.
No. I want you to guess. I don't want you to look at it. Okay. There have been 8 instances where cash yields dropped rapidly.
Okay.
What's the percentage they dropped by? So
Like
assuming
from what?
doesn't matter, the average drop in cash yields,
I don't know, 4 or 5%.
4%. So that means we went.
So that was a guess just based on.
No, that's why I wanted to do this.
skimming
I
the
wanted
chart.
to, yeah, I just wanted to see what you thought. So if I told most people today that cash yields 8 times since 1973 have dropped by at least 4%, that would shock them. They'd be like, no way. You mean our 4.5% savings account rate right now could go to 0.5%?
That's what it was 5 years ago.
Okay,
6 years ago.
Next quiz. What was the duration of the drops? What was the range? How long did it take to go from their current cash yield and drop 4%?
12 months.
Anywhere from 3 months, which is, I mean, think about that, a 4% drop in 3 months. So anywhere from 3 months to 2 years.
And yeah.
So if we
Makes
think
sense.
about it, when did yields start to come down? Probably like last summer, right?
Yes.
Yields started,
Yeah.
we started lowering, yields started coming down last summer-ish. I like that. So if we're 6 months in, arguably, people should be thinking about what am I going to do with my cash within 18 months, because history shows us there's a likelihood this could go down by, it's already down by 1%, right? So it could go down another 3, let's call it. Where are you going to start positioning
That's a good
cash?
question is what are you going to do with your cash? I think the other question investors should ask is what is the cash, like what's the role of the cash in your portfolio? Right? Because, I mean, there's still people that are going to need liquidity and they're just overall asset allocation. So it's not, you can't just like totally abandon it.
Okay, that's a 2-part question, or a 2-part.
Yeah.
Part A, you're right. If it's short-term money, it probably needs to be in cash. If it's part of a bucket strategy where you need liquidity over 1 to 3 years, it probably needs to be even segmented a little more in there, meaning we have this cash reserve, which is pure cash, but maybe you're starting to layer in some really short-term cash alternatives, bonds, et cetera, to get a higher yield. And I think that's the one thing. If you're sitting on cash for a short-term goal or you're in the distribution phase of life, yeah, you probably have to leave it there. But if you're my age and let's say you're under 55 and you're not retiring in the next 5 years, you're not going to spend it in the next 5 years, you need to ask yourself, why do I own cash? Because the alternative could be the bond market, and we don't know which way the bond market's going to go. But likely, if we get a recession and we get a softening of the economy, typically we lower interest rates to stimulate the economy, which would cause the price of those bonds to actually go up. As rates go down, prices go up.
Well,
So
I think there's more and more compelling arguments for a softening economy. I just listened to a podcast the other day and it was about the top 10% of consumers, so the wealthiest 10% of consumers. So they're starting to be, and they were making analogies like to the real estate market. So you're starting to see more real estate deals kind of fall through in the 7-figure market, like $1 million, $5-10 million properties.
did you read this on Wall Street Journal yesterday?
I don't think it. No, I was listening to a podcast.
Wall Street Journal yesterday. Well, actually the 13th. The headline article, wealthy buyers are backing out of $1 million home deals.
Yeah, and so I was starting to wonder why, and I think, if you think about maybe someone, because there was some deal they cited, it was an accepted offer at $10 million.
It's
and then at the last
they're
minute,
citing the Wall Street Journal article.
okay,
It's right
last
here.
minute there was a back out. Well, if this person was borrowing against like their brokerage account, their non-retirement account, and depending on what that's down with the downturn in the market, they might have not been able to finance that purchase. So that could have helped. I mean, I don't know that is the reason, but that could be supporting that reason for the deal to just fall through at the last second.
The reason actually that it fell through was strictly uncertainty about the global trade.
Yeah.
because
geopolitical risk, tariff risk.
That's
all
what
that.
it was. And it's because of the unknown. And I think we've talked about on the show a lot, Elias, that there have been two economies for the better part of 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah.
You have the economy of the people with no assets, just starting out saving, lower incomes, and inflation has really hurt those people. And then you have the economy of some of the wealthiest people in America who, truth be told, inflation really helped increase the value of their real estate, their land, their businesses, their stock portfolio. And that's been driving the market because they haven't slowed down. They just haven't slowed down. They just keep going. But now
there's signs it's slowing down.
They're starting to slow down. And if that part of the spending economy slows down, the economy is going to slow down. There is no question about it. I mean, I had a conversation with a client in Florida, and they're concerned about their housing market. And I've mentioned it, that Florida's getting soft. She told me right now they spent like $600,000 on their house. They bought it two or 3 years ago, maybe. She said if we sold it today, we would lose $100,000.
I think, but their real estate market, I think, was one that their market can get pretty overvalued, right? If people are flush and have cash and they want to live somewhere nice like that, they're just going to pay what it costs.
You're right. There's places like that. California, Florida, they're notorious for that. But I think you're right about, hey, there is potentially a softening of the economy, and likely what comes with it is maybe lowering of interest rates. Although, the Fed came out the other day and said, our primary focus is inflation. They're not really all that concerned with a backstop for the stock market. It's not one of their mandates. It's full employment and inflation, and that caused the market to go down 2% or whatever yesterday, more gyration. But if you have cash, start to figure out what the plan is for the cash. Like, start thinking ahead. I know there's a lot of young people that have a bunch of cash. I've held on to a bunch of cash.
Savings rates in general are ticking up. People, they're not as confident as they were 12 months ago, so people are preparing. That's one of the things that
I guess
happens.
that's a good news. It's unfortunate, though. Their debt's ticking up, too.
Well,
I don't even know how can you have increased savings rates, but your debt is getting higher? How does that work?
I don't know. I mean, people might be cutting back. They're just starting to cut back. That doesn't mean they still don't have credit card debt. So we will see what happens. Here's an interesting thing. Even with the uncertainty and all that. So I had a meeting this week, a review with some new clients, been with us probably around a year, and it was, a pretty common situation when I first met them and started going through everything. They're just not sure what to do. We want to make the right choices with our money. We've made mistakes with credit cards. We got that figured out, but we want to know what we need to do. So about 12 months ago, we put together a game plan, put together a financial plan for them, gave them some advice around let's focus on these things, keep crossing these bridges as they go. So with all this uncertainty, they told me this week that they've never felt better about their finances. Now, they're young, too, and they also understand market pullback's a good opportunity for them at their age, but they've eliminated all their debt other than their mortgage. They have an emergency fund that is sufficient for them, and they're comfortable with the number, and now they're increasing their investment contributions. So even though there's this uncertainty and scariness, it is still possible to be confident in your situation.
I think that's great. But that's what a plan does. It gives people confidence.
That's how I felt.
That's why you do it.
Yeah, and they even said they also made a comment, had we not gone through the planning process you guys do, we'd probably just still kind of just wallowing, not really understanding what we should do, and now we feel great about what we should do. perfect. That's where we want you. We want you to feel confident in what you're doing.
I have a similar story. Somebody that I know is retiring, and not a client, thought they're just going to pull the trigger and retire. Recommended, hey, just go meet with an advisor, make sure that's what you should do. Advisor sat down with them, told me you need to work 2 more years. And they were really happy that they did it. You know, they're 65. They're going to wait till they're 67 now. Really happy that they made that decision because they could have potentially put their retirement in jeopardy. But
yeah,
I think,
just by retiring too early.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I commended the advisor, and I don't even know who the advisor was. I commended the advisor that they actually told them to wait 2 years and not do it because it wasn't in their best interest. But that's what advisors do. They bring confidence to your individual situation. And I think when you have confidence with your individual situation, the investments kind of fall into line. You know, you have goals for your money. You understand why you would be taking stock market risk, and you don't end up playing it too safe. Because if you don't know what to do, it's easy to play it too safe. And what I mean by that is you're 35 and you've done a great job saving. You have an emergency fund that's 4 years worth of savings, not 6 months, right?
Seems excessive.
Well, mean they're hoarding cash because they don't know what to do with it. That happens.
It does.
I'm
yeah.
joking. Like this is my emergency fund. Well, why do you have 4 years worth in there? I've seen it. Because sometimes the safe investments actually bring more risk.
Certainly long-term risk, especially with where you're at in your investing journey. And I think one thing to keep in mind, even with stock market risk, long-term, no matter how you really slice it, and all the math suggests that for your net worth that is in capital markets, like your investable net worth, all the math and everything suggests the more equities that you can own and just stay with it, the more you're going to be rewarded over the long term. There's no other asset class like that that's going to have the same performance over long periods of time. Over 12 months, yeah, treasuries could outperform the market. A CD could outperform the market in any given year, but longer stretches of time, that's not going to be the case.
Well, right here, I got a chart right here. This is back from 1978. So let's call it 45 years worth of data, right? That's 45. Yeah, 45, 46 years, somewhere in there. 46. $10,000 in cash. So you just plop your $10,000 in cash and never touched it. 70 grand. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Next were bonds. 10,000 turned into 183,000. So fair. A balanced portfolio. So you convince the person that's all cash, gold, or bonds to put half of their money in bonds and half into stocks. 738,000.
That's significantly different.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All equities. $2.1 million. So if you're young or you have money that's going to the next generation, we see this a lot. You know, we're 75 years old. They have, however much money sitting in CDs because they're supposed to, even though they're never going to spend their money. If the money's for an inheritance to somebody, why would you be conservative with it?
I don't
like, it doesn't make any
think
sense.
you should be, depending on how old that person is.
Well, not even.
I mean, if you're not planning on spending it, yeah.
Okay, so let's play this scenario. You're 65. You've done a bucket strategy, so you got your liquid, your income, your growth, and you're just worried about this legacy bucket. the numbers show us that if you're 65, arguably you've got at least a 25-year time horizon. If you're married, one of you guys is going to make it. There's like a 50% chance one of you is going to make it to 90. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's actually over 50%, but it's high.
Okay. Yeah. So you pass away at 90. And then now, so that was 25 years already you had. And your beneficiaries, let's say, are 65. And they have another 25 years. That's 50 years. It's about what this scenario is right here. So the $10,000 in the CD that you had lockbox could have turned into $2.2 million. If you set some goals and priorities and, had some long-term vision of what you wanted your money to actually accomplish. Elias, another thing too, when people, we mentioned having goals for your money, but a lot of people just can't get it done. Like, there are reasons why they just can't reach their financial goals, why they can't make a goal. And I thought it'd be good to talk about some of these, because if you're out there and you've set a financial goal and you haven't been able to accomplish it, you're not alone. Like, most people set goals and they don't get accomplished. And there are some reasons, very specific reasons why they don't. I think the first one is they don't know where to start. And we've talked about before that setting a goal of making more money by investing isn't really a goal.
But I want to have a lot of money.
Okay, yeah, that's an obscure goal. Why do you want to have a lot of money? That's the first thing you have to start with.
Everyone wants to have more money.
Right. And I think you mentioned those clients that had a really clear vision of where they were going because of the financial plan that you helped them do. What you did is you gave them a place to start. Hey, this is where we need to start, get our savings rate right. So first thing is have to find a way to start, whether you get an advisor, you do something online, you take a class. If people need help getting started, go to btwellshow.com and we'll get you connected with an advisor. And the second is, the numbers don't add up for most people to reach a financial goal. And
why do you think that is? Do you think that's because the numbers don't add up?
People don't
There's
do a budget.
There's not enough extra there to save.
Yeah. Like, their goal that they have isn't attainable based upon the lifestyle they're living. And, here's what's interesting.
Some tough conversations with yourself.
Okay. I got a good one for you. We're all assuming this is people that, don't make a lot of money.
There's plenty of people that make a lot of money that don't live within their means.
No, they live within their means, but their means are going to end when their business ends. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people out there who are making a lot of money and they can afford the lifestyle they have very easily. But they think that maxing out a 401k for them and their spouse and doing a backdoor Roth IRA is going to be enough.
Depending on what age you start all that, it very easily could not be enough.
Okay, if you're making $600,000 a year, which seems like a lot of money, but there's quite a few people that make that. Those people actually run the real risk that they won't have enough to live the lifestyle that they want to have.
Right, to replace their lifestyle while they were working.
Right, and I think people listening are probably like, whoa, they'll have enough. Well, they will have enough, but it won't be the same lifestyle. Because people typically don't make $500,000 or more money in their first 20 years of their career. When do they get it?
Yeah, typically
probably in their early 50s.
40s.
That's your peak earning years, is your early 50s, is your peak earning. Well, if you get accustomed to that lifestyle and you weren't maxing out your 401k for the first 15 years, there's not a whole lot of catch up to be played. And they're probably not saving in a brokerage account and doing the other stuff. They're just doing those things. They won't hit it. We've seen it happen to people.
Yeah, and that is one of the, for people making that money, that is one of the issues with the retirement contribution limits is those limits may not be sufficient for the lifestyle that you always want to have.
It would be 15% of their income. If you made 600,000, you wouldn't be able to contribute 15%.
No.
You wouldn't. You'd be stuck at about 10 to 12, but you need to probably be a 15 or 20. And you're making up for lost time, right? Because 15% when you were making $100,000, it's a lot different than 15 when you're making 90.
Yeah.
And the question is, did you outpace it, right? Most people that make that, I want the new car, I want the bigger house, with the vacation house, I want all those different things. And so a lot of times they set a goal, hey, I want to retire and keep my lifestyle. Okay. Well, you might, if you're making 500,000, you might need to put away a third of your net income to do that.
Yeah, and if you want to keep that lifestyle, yeah, you're probably going to need to have 4 or 5 million.
More.
Well, but if your total income's 500, you're not spending 500,000 for the year, because your after tax income, like what you actually can spend, is going to be less than that number.
Well, yeah, but it depends on where you're saving the money, because most people that are saving money at that level want the tax deduction today. So they're still going to pay taxes, right? Their savings rate could be backed out of that.
True.
Like, so, okay, 20, say they're making 500, you're getting 4. So you're living on 400,000. You're going to need $6, $7, $8 million to live that lifestyle minimum.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the numbers don't add up.
Well, that's the problem. They don't. And I think, to your point, a lot of people think they need a lot more money in retirement than they really do.
What do you mean by that?
The person you just said, they think they need $500,000 a year in retirement. Like, we just talked about a person who might want to keep their same lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Well, if they have a mortgage and payments and debt, that's all going to go away.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully those things are squared away.
And the other thing is,
you could. I guess in my mind, you could have similar lifestyle, but hopefully you don't have the debt that you have while you're working, and you're also not going to be doing any savings. So but that's a good starting place. Is let's see how these numbers pencil out. Is this actually going to work?
Well, it goes back to one of the first things we talk to people about. Walk me through your first year of retirement. What's it look like? That's how you start to get a cost to it.
I'm going to buy a mansion. I'm going to go
It's going to be a lot.
8 international vacations.
You know something? I've never heard somebody tell me, seriously, 22 years of doing this, my goal is to just go buy a mansion retirement. Most people, well, you just said 8 international vacations. That's pretty realistic.
Yeah, there are people that like to travel.
I hear I want another place, but I don't think a mansion is the goal for a lot of people. I think the goal for a lot of people is actually have a really nice place, but simplify it.
I think, and be around their family. I think that's one of the most common, regardless of how much money people have, they want, especially they have kids, a family, and grandkids. They really just want the freedom to be around their family more. That's typically a huge motivating factor for them.
I think it's one of the things that makes planning difficult at a young age, because you don't know where your family's going to be.
Well, it's also it's far away.
Yeah. Okay. I got the scenario.
Retirement
right
accounts inherently are just boring. And even when you do it for a long time and then you start to have some money in there, well, wouldn't that money be more fun to spend it today? Like, right? It's just sitting there. I could use it, but I can't use it till I'm 59 and a half.
Yeah. Another reason people don't hit it, they don't believe they can do it. I mean, I actually understand that. They don't think they can get to that number because I think a lot of people believe that the people that have, millions of dollars, that the money just appeared.
Appeared?
Yeah, like
from where?
they just got it. They just made that money. That's not really how they did it. They did it.
That's how I get mine. It just appears.
You do it a little bit over a long period of time. And here's why I believe people don't think they can do it. Getting the first 10,000 saved seems like quite a task when you're 22. Because, dude, let's say you're putting away $200 a week. $200 a month. Okay, well, you made 10% interest on your money, or you made $200 of interest. People don't see how it starts to work. But when the market, when you have $1 million and your account goes from $1 million and the market does 10, it goes to 1.1 million, you're like, whoa, that's how it works. So it just accelerates the more and more you do it. So you kind of got to get past the idea of, hey, I don't think I can do it. You just got to start doing it and it will work out.
Yeah, starting to do it. And then I think another common thing is, and now we live in an era where everyone brags on social media, right, about how great their life is. And I think most people are living a pretty good life. But keeping up with the Joneses, comparing your situation to other people, there's no value to be gained from that. And if you have a job where you're making a lot of jobs out there where you're making a decent income with some discipline and some planning, you can accomplish a lot with your money, but it's not going to be easy and you're going to have to make sacrifices.
Well, and there's going to be stuff that comes up, curveballs come out of left field, and you have to figure out how to just keep your savings rate intact. I mean, people like to use the curveball as a reason why they're not saving. Oh, well, so-and-so got sick, so we had to stop our 401k. Oh, we didn't stop Starbucks or Chipotle.
Yeah, right. And those things are legitimate, but you still have to, I just don't know any people that have been successful long-term in their savings and investing. And curveballs are obstacles in life, right? It is hard to overcome some of that stuff. It doesn't change the fact that the people that do just don't allow those things to be an excuse for them.
That's exactly. They don't allow it to be an excuse. It's not even an excuse. They don't see their savings rate as optional. It's not an option to not.
Yeah. Like
it's
young
not
people
optional.
who are good savers and good investors, you're right. They don't believe that setting themselves up for success and setting themselves up to be wealthy. Yeah, they don't view it as optional.
Well,
they view it as this is a non-negotiable thing that I am going to do.
Well, truth be told, today it kind of is not an option to not save, because if you do, the only thing you're going to have in retirement is Social Security.
I mean, it is an option, but you're not.
But if you're going to have a good retirement, it's not optional. It used to be optional because you had a pension. Those are gone. So the only way you're going to get the retirement you want is if you take responsibility to do it yourself. And then ultimately, I think the number one thing that holds people back, Elias, is just not taking action. It's always finding a reason why they can't do it. You just got to find a reason to get it done, not procrastinate it.
Well, right. That's it. You just have to say, I'm going to get started.
And if you can't do it, find someone to help you do it. A lot of times you need an accountability partner.
Yeah, a coach, accountability partner, however you want to view the relationship. But
it's like working out, Elias. If you and I lifted weights together and we were going to meet at the gym at 6:00 every morning,
I would go more frequently.
I would, because
Who do you think would get stronger?
I know who'd look better.
I'm just kidding. I'm stronger than you. That's a flex, isn't it?
As long as you eat your triple stack protein, you'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. Triple stacks. That's a good idea.
I don't know what that is. I've just heard that in the past. But my point is, if we had a 6 a.m., we're going to the gym every day.
Yeah.
I would, right now, I'm not going to the gym at 6 because I don't have to be there. But if our agreement was we're both going to be here, man, the only reason I'm going to miss is because something really bad happened.
Yeah.
It's not going to be because I didn't want to get up or I hit my alarm. Like, you're not going to try and disappoint the other person.
Right. The only times in my life I've consistently been a 6 a.m. early morning workout person, high school, college, and I signed up for an exercise group class one time. So here's the only the one consistent thing. If there's other people involved, I will go do that. But on my own, right, at 6:30 in the morning, I'd rather drink a coffee and kind of knock out some emails and get my day going, have breakfast with my family. I don't want to be in the gym working out.
What, though?
I can do it some other time.
You mentioned something good there. You had a class you signed up for.
Yeah, and it was at 6, so that's if I don't go, then I miss my workout.
Well, was it free or did you have to pay for it?
No, it was a pay.
Right, so it was paid for it. So
Yeah.
what actually happened, you had a financial commitment to do that.
Right.
And if you didn't, you felt like you were wasting the money. Maybe that's what I need to do.
Wasting money
I've
and
never
time.
went to a class. Maybe I need to do a class at like 5:30 to force me to get up, go get the workout done.
It's effective if you do it.
Well, if anybody is having trouble getting started with their financial future, go to b2lshow.com. You can click the link in the description. We'd be happy to help you get started. Be happy to be your accountability partner. Do us a favor. If you're enjoying the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave us a review if possible. With that said, appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and/or transaction costs, and does not assure a profit or protect against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and/or transaction costs, and does not assure a profit or protect against loss. Dollar cost averaging involves continuous investment in securities regardless of fluctuations in price levels. Investors should consider their ability to continue purchasing through periods of low price levels. Such a plan does not assure a profit and does not protect against loss in declining markets.